all of your other tubes, you'll be doing 2 sides at the same time, so you'll need twice as much. So mix it in here, zigzag it, swirl it, spin the stick. You want to really make sure, since we have a low amount, that we have, it properly mixed. So go around in circles, kind of zigzag, whatever you need to do. Now this epoxy is a lower quality epoxy, so it is kind of stinky, and you'll notice that. The stuff we use tomorrow, you won't notice it at all. But this stuff does have a pretty significant kind of VOC off-gassing. So when you're done with the stir stick, if you want to be super careful, you can set them on the edge and we'll reuse them later when it dries, but otherwise just throw them away. Don't try to put the epoxy on with the stick. It'll take you too long and you won't have the finesse to get it right. The best thing to do is to put it on your finger. I guarantee I'm going to make this look easier than it is, but what you want to do is lay down just a bead of epoxy that's pretty even without making a mess. So don't like scribble it all over the edges, because we're not gluing any of this to anything. It's literally just that edge is touching just the edge of the bottom bracket. So put it on there, and if you just kind of scrape and scroll at the same time, you can get a pretty even amount on there. Now, if you spill some on the inside, it's okay, because gravity's on our side once we put it in there. So if we have some left over and we just want to scrape it off on the inside, when it falls back downhill, it'll actually create, another bond on the inside, so that's fine. But primarily what people do is they get it on here and it starts dripping and they make a mess, and then all of a sudden it's like you've covered the whole bottom in plastic, and then what we've done is we've eliminated that woody kind of connection that we're looking for. If you have any left on your finger, put it on the back side of your other glove. This is your timer now to know when it's starting to dry without having to touch it, because it's just sitting on the back of your hand. So the slot goes to the back. I'm going to push it up, drop it down in here, and then I'll look at it and decide.
You just want it parallel?
You just want it in the middle of that piece of silver, right? And then we're going to slide this down.
So somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, you want it to be, close. I mean, if it's not in the middle, then your seat's not straight. When you're sitting on it, it's technically left or right. So get it in there as square as you can get it. Try not to get epoxy all over my frame jig. Tighten it in there, and it should be in there to where it's not going to go anywhere. Before it sets, you want to double check your top tube and make sure it fits where you thought it was going to fit. So that, if you had 2 lines, you could check the line in the front and the back. Because technically it's possible for this to be in just a little bit forward or a little bit back. And if this is pushed to the front, this tube would be sitting up here, and then the back tube is going to be too short, right? So it's important that this goes in, more or less exactly where we had it. Now, if you look at the bead down here where the glue is, it looks like, a weld would look on metal, right? We've got a little bit squeezing out. It has a good kind of contact point all the way around, which is the reason we wanted a good fit on that piece of metal down there. And whatever else is on the inside is now squeezed out and is just kind of trapped in there. And in about 5 minutes, that'll be a bond that's strong enough to touch, but not strong enough to move. So it takes about an hour before this stuff is totally set. Generally speaking, if you haven't worked with epoxy before, if it's starting to get warm, you've got about 30 seconds to do something with it. So if the bottom of the cup feels hot, or if it starts to turn yellow, don't even bother putting your finger in there or trying to do anything with it. Just throw it out and make a new cup. Because once it starts to get hot, it'll get real sticky, real stringy, and then it's just gonna set and you won't be able to do anything with it. So when that cup's done, throw that one away. If you're neat and tidy, at this point you should really only have the tip of one finger, that's messy. But if you're to the point where like your gloves are totally covered and like you can't touch anything else, put new gloves on and start over. Because you don't want to start grabbing onto stuff and having it permanently bond to your glove